to order the Monday, August 26, 2024 meeting of the Charter Revision Commission at 2 p.m. Michelle, would you roll call us, please?
Dr. Root,
Here.
Mr. Kolianis,
Here.
Dr. Gavalis,
Here.
Ms. Jennings,
Here.
Mr. Kuskudis is absent and excused, Mr. Seaman,
Here.
and Mr. Terrapini.
Here.
Let's go to public comments. I see we have a public here. Please state your name and address for the record.
Surely. Good afternoon, Peter Delakis, 514 Ashland Avenue. First, I want to thank everybody here for your dedication to be here every Monday at 2 o'clock. I know it can be tedious going over things, trying to debate minute language, but I think overall y'all have done a good job. I like the way you have worded it, Mr. Kuskudis, on his, I just got this, but I had read before, and I like the fact that we have established a sustainability committee into there. And the other thing I noticed, Mr. Terrapini had sent in an email with regards to basically the issue of something the city has bought by referendum, that to do something with it would be wise to also put that to a referendum, because the city populace voted on the first place. And less the swap would be for identical purposes that the first referendum was for, which if it goes to a referendum, then I wouldn't see where people would have a problem with it. I did have a problem with when I read that language. Now, I don't know if y'all have gone to see City Manager LaCourse's explanation, and John would understand the fact that I don't know if you saw it, but basically he was saying that the value of what we purchased at Roosevelt isn't worth the value of the land in the middle of the Dodecanese, and no one's going to be stupid enough to trade it, in that regard, in a capitalistic economic sense. But if enough incentives were thrown in, you could probably add a few other things in, maybe this property and maybe something somewhere else, and then you do the swap. So I kind of think that Mr. Terrapini's on a good thing here. That could be something that could be looked at as how to word it. Where you have the section about referendums, you can maybe add properties that were purchased, like he recommends. How is it? Property bought in a public referendum. I would even take out the value part. I wouldn't even consider the value part. I would just say property bought in a public referendum cannot be sold, swapped, traded without a public referendum approving that transaction, and take the money out of it. Because the money, if it's the money will tell it's yes or no. But I still think just the principle, if the people voted on it, like on that property, it was for parking, open space, and some type of event space, which if any of y'all went to the Hippie Fest, it really worked out nice. They had the parking on the northwest corner, on the northeast corner. They had the big tent with a band and tables, and then they had vendors all around and up, down. Oh, I'm sorry, I ran out of time. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So I can see the value of that property as it was meant, but if you were then to swap it, and who knows what would happen. So otherwise, I appreciate all the hard work you've done, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Comments?
I'm going to go ahead into the review draft of
What about
charter
comments to his comments?
but you won't need to, because we'll be able to go right into discussing it right now. Okay?
Okay.
Just,
I
all
just
right.
didn't want to, if
That's
he was
it.
going to leave, I just wanted to, have an open dialogue.
Okay. My meeting, we're doing it this way.
Well, it's all of our meetings, actually.
Well, yeah, but somebody, I'm first among equals here, and I want to set the pace here. And we are going to have your discussion, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have it with the public. We have it with each other. Okay, and that's why you'll have a chance to make comments and address what Mr. Delacos has said, but you'll make it, the conversation will be with us. Okay? All right, so we're going to get into the draft charter ordinance. I'd like to just bring us up to where we are right now. We have an ordinance package that was sent out by Irene. We have a new one that went out about 10 o'clock today. Yes?
Yes.
And did that go to everyone?
That is what I placed on the dais, is what I have.
Oh,
on the
that's
current
just-
one. Yeah.
I sent it to everyone. So if you didn't get it, I didn't get a bounce back, that's all. I'm saying.
Okay, so this is new, this is the new one.
And I also put a paper copy in front.
Okay. All right, so we're all on the same page. The one that got handed out today is the new and improved variety from this morning. We have a number of responders who indicated there were some changes to be made. One was from Mr. Terrapini, which we'll discuss first. And then we'll get into the review with and address Mike Kuskudis's comments, my comments, and anybody else who's reviewed and have comments regarding the charter. Is everyone okay with that process? Okay, let's start with Mr. Terrapini and your observations about swapping properties, which I thought was pretty good. So what
Thank you.
would you like to say about that?
Well, it was brought up because a consultant that the city hired has it in a plan that's being considered by the Board of Commissioners. And I don't think any of us considered while we were doing our deliberations, we always talked about the purchase of property. We didn't talk about the liquidation of property. So this would, since it's come to the forefront, it would be a way to, if the public is sold on buying a piece of property through referendum, they have to be given reasons, they have to, it's sold on an idea that, then it shouldn't be liquidated, traded. And so my feeling is if the Board of Commissioners want to be land speculators, let them go and do land speculation on their own dime, not on the citizens' dime and time. So it's just a way to, if something's bought by referendum, it has to be
Sold by-
traded, sold by referendum.
I
That's
agree.
basically, and what I sent was not proposed language, it was more of a concept than language.
Okay, now Mike,
And to
Mike.
Peter's thing about the value, Peter, that was more like if the city owned a piece of land that they acquired, a million years ago, like, let's say the Reagan landfill the city bought a long time ago, it's 70 acres. So the city owns property, I guess is what I'm saying, that has value that's greater than the 500,000 if that were to occur. So what I'm saying is if it had a value of 500,000 or greater, they can't liquidate it other than the provisions that are already in the charter for, charitable purposes, or I'm okay with that. But
okay, well, I go even farther. I kind of like the comment. If they bought it in referendum, it can't be sold unless a referendum.
right, but I went further and said that some things the city owns weren't acquired through referendum. I'm not sure how that happened, but maybe it was before that requirement was put in or something, but the city owns some pretty valuable stuff around. So that was the second. It was two phases. Two concepts. One is if it was bought in a referendum, it has to be sold in a referendum or traded. And the other is if they have a piece of property that's worth $1 million that they just have, it still would have to be
Okay,
in a referendum.
got it.
But that's, to me, less important, I think, than the referendum piece.
Okay, so I will, I'm gonna ask for a motion, if I may, to consider new content for change to the charter.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Now, is there a discussion about whether or not we reopen it? My concern is it too late? I don't think so. I think we should be able to do this.
We have other meetings scheduled in September, right?
No, we don't.
don't?
We are presenting this to the board next Tuesday.
Well, I did talk to Irene, and she said that we could do it because even when we present this, that the Board of Commissioners have the right to ask us to make changes and to include their own language, so.
Well, and we're here to make changes to the draft anyway. That's why I was thinking that we're probably okay with doing this. Okay, can we get a vote then on whether, on allowing new information to drive change today?
Dr. Gavalis?
Yes.
Ms. Jennings?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Chair Kolianis?
Yes.
Chair Root?
Yes. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept the language that's been proposed by Mr. Terrapini, and I will read it. Property bought in public referendum or that has a value equal or greater to the maximum value the board can purchase without a referendum cannot be sold, swapped, or traded without a public referendum approving the transaction.
One question.
Yes.
I mean, Mr. Terrapini just said, that's not necessarily, is that what you said? Not necessarily the
It
wording?
was a concept, you know, I'm not a lawyer,
Right.
so it's, Mr. Salzman can
Okay.
take the concept from us and turn it into, if it passes.
Right, well, I want the motion on the table so we can discuss it.
So moved.
Well, I like the way John described it
Seconded?
just a minute ago is kind of two parts
Yeah.
where it isolates the two things. I think it was a little clearer than actually what the text here
Yeah.
is.
And I think your statement as you wrote it does that. Yeah, yeah, don't you?
Yeah, I think it
I-
conveys
no,
the
I think it's
concept.
well
I think
written
and-
from that
and Mr.
perspective.
Salzman's here listening, so I think he,
I'm just trying to decide whether I guess we could put it as I.
in the property purchase, right? Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
That's H right there. So I was thinking of putting it as I.
that's, when I looked at it, I thought it would work there.
Yeah, I think that'll work fine. I like your language. I mean, there might be just tiny tweaking, but I think it's pretty straightforward.
And which section is that?
That's section 3.
Section 3, okay.
To clarify the
So we're going to add it as paragraph I?
public
Okay.
referendum, comma. or
Oh, yeah,
has
yeah,
value
yeah.
equal to
Don't worry
it.
about that.
But that's how you get the separation of what
Yeah.
he's talking.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
And there isn't an existing paragraph I? Are we looking at the actual
Yeah.
charter or your updates?
No, that's the charter with the updates. That's the section.
Okay, that's,
H is the change with 500,000 and identifying the funding source. And I'll put John's on I if that's what you recommend.
okay. Okay, so can we amend the motion to put it on section 3, new paragraph I?
So moved.
Second?
All right, we're all happy with that? Michelle, can you call a vote?
Dr. Gavalis?
Yes, but I'd like to just say a couple things.
Yes,
a
go
little
ahead.
Discussion. I think this is a good thing, but I just want us to consider a couple things. One is the sort of less is more, is this something that is really needed? And I want to say that as I've been reading more and more stuff in terms of planning, what I'm finding that the term land swap is very trendy, and I'm just wondering if this is something that is going to be viable for very long. The other thing is, if we put into the charter every single possible, option that the city has for various things, it just becomes, I think you called it a word salad. It's a lot of stuff. I basically agree with this, but are we muddying the waters by putting too much in to the charter, making too many amendments? I just want to bring this up for
Well,
discussion.
I think that's a good point. When I first saw it, my concern was, are we being reactive versus being responsive? But I think if, you know, if the citizens have requested purchase of a property through a referendum, I think it makes sense that they get control over when the city disposes that.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Chair Panning wants to take to the next step with previously acquired property.
Yes, but I also very much like the value being put in there so that it doesn't become something that every time we have some $30,000, dollar plot of land, that it's going to have to go out to referendum or something. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the city transfer property, for example, to Habitat for Humanity for like $25,000 a lot. And for property and values like that, it makes sense that they can do that without having to wait for referendum. That's my attitude, my thoughts.
Absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
excluded via the charitable organization, and that would stay.
Okay. Is
No, I
any-
think it's crucial enough to be included. It's one thing to be fiddling around with minor changes. I think this is pretty important to
Yeah.
include.
I agree. I it was a good find. All right, so anybody have anything else they want to say, or are we going to jump on to our a couple? 3, 2, 1. Okay, Michelle, would you please call a vote on this?
Chair Dr. Boobalis,
Yes.
Ms. Jennings,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Ms. Chair Panning,
Yes.
Vice Chair Colianis,
Yes.
Chair Root.
Yes. Okay, I will ask if anybody has a preferred process that they want to use to review this. I have reviewed it on my own. Has everyone gone through it, or do we want to go through change by change? And we can do it either way. It doesn't,
I looked at it, but the way my mind works, and it's not for everybody, is I just start at the top until I hit something, and I address that, and then just methodically.
yep, not a problem. Okay, so
Could we address Mike's comments?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, get that out of the way.
I think we should go section by section. Are you okay
Okay.
with that?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So there were really two sections to look at. One was the section of whereases. And then there's the section of change language. Okay. When I reviewed it, I went through and made sure that every one of our revision recommendations were represented in the whereases. And then I went to see what the language was in the change. And that helped me, because going back and forth makes me a little dizzy. So if you don't mind, we can go through this check sheet twice, once for the whereases, and then once again to make sure the language is in the charter. Are you,
Okay.
or do you, I mean, that's how my mind
know,
works, but I'm not going to
everybody-
force
everybody
everybody to do that if that
everybody works
doesn't make
different.
sense to them.
What I looked at, Carrie, was the actual documents they gave us.
You just want to review the document. Okay, that's
I mean,
fine with
it's-
me.
Your changes should come up while we're reviewing those.
Yeah, no, they will.
Yeah, okay.
They will. Okay, so, page 1. Any comments or questions?
When I initially saw the 350, I put a question mark next to it, but then I read the
Right.
next whereas and I corrected that.
Yeah, the whereas sections tell the story,
Mm-hmm.
and then we go into the changes. So, no comments on page 1? Page 2. No comments on page 2? Page 3.
Just Andy's markup.
On 3, yep. That's just so I had missed the sidewalk language that you wanted removed, that first sentence. So I just put in there that we're going to remove irrelevant language, which when we get to it, you'll see.
Right, right. So that's kind of a, don't forget it.
Right, that's one, everything I put in yellow is what I added since you received the original document.
Okay.
You know, seeing this new language, the superfluous,
You don't like my
I don't
choice
think it's
of words?
superfluous. I think I think the reason is because we recognize a need for ramping up.
Oh, no, the language I removed was solely the language that identified,
The language that should have been removed from the sidewalk fund was limiting the withdraw
Right.
at 100,000.
Right,
No, but he removed the first sentence, which just said the name of the,
right, there's an irrelevant,
did we, I didn't see, did we have a vote on that issue? Ultimately, to do it that way? I know we had a lot of discussion on it.
We had this, yes, I have it was approved on 5/17. City to budget minimum of 100,000 K to withdraw up to 300 K from fund to be spent according to terms and charter. Cities required to create a sidewalk improvement fund by 2029.
Okay, so what I will do is, then I will edit this to remove, well, we're still gonna remove the top sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's,
then,
item
and then what we'll do is, hold on.
We can look at the words when we get there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, but for here, I think you need to also address that,
No, I'll change that whole whereas.
okay, you need to expand that.
Yeah, that whereas is, I'll remove the language that I used, because I'll be more,
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, can I have a question? I have
Oh,
a
of
question.
course.
So on page 2 on the
no
second,
questions.
please.
Oh, by the way, we never go back.
We don't? Okay, well, so the second whereas where section 3 of the charter provides for the acquisition by the city of real property under limited circumstances.
You're on page
No.
2,
Yes, the second whereas.
provides for the acquisition by
Right.
the city of real property, yes.
Have to do anything now with the land swap in that?
I will, yeah, I'll address that change in that language, yes.
Okay. That's all.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a good catch.
Gotcha. So is there any, okay, so I'll make the change under 26. All right, that's where we are, so wherever,
Okay, so, did everybody catch that? What Michelle suggested is that on page 2 where it says, whereas section 3 of the charter provides for acquisition by the city of real property under limited circumstances. And then the next one addresses dredging and spoil. We also need to add Mr. Terrapini's change.
Right.
in that
there'll be a whole
location.
new whereas for
A
that.
new whereas. Okay, so we're all on the same page with that. That was page 2. Page 3. Now we've just discussed expanding the language on the whereases for section 26 to address the change, what we agreed to on the sidewalk fund, which was to withdraw up to 300K and requiring the city to create a sidewalk improvement fund. That needs to be added
To the whereas, Carrie?
for plan and,
I'm sorry, Carrie, you're talking about adding it to the whereas?
that's in the whereases.
You want that in the whereas?
That needs to be added to the whereases, yeah. Okay?
I missed what you said, I'm sorry.
Okay, on section 3 for section 26, it was what we spoke of before, you need to expand the whereases to address the city requirement to have a sidewalk plan in 5 years and changing the amount of the
Yes.
withdrawal that's
Yes.
possible. Okay.
That'll be added.
Okay. Are there any other changes to page 3? Page 4.
The second whereas,
But they,
it's a typo, but Advent Health doesn't have a space between it.
right.
Where is that?
The second whereas, Andy, on
Right
page
there.
4.
The second line of the second whereas, where it says DBA Advent Health,
I
there's
made
no
that change
space
on
there.
my, on my computer. But yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
You may have changed it back in the last section. Did you catch it in the whereases too?
I thought I did.
That's okay.
Maybe I didn't.
Maybe you did.
I'll get it.
That's okay. What's a space among friends, right?
Right.
I have a question on that. Because there was as most of you know, there was a huge lawsuit about this whole thing. The city of Tarpon Springs owns the hospital, not the Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation.
I know, but that's what they changed its name to.
No, they actually,
They can't change the name,
no, it's this,
right, Jimmy?
Yeah, absolutely right. Yes.
I mean, it's.
What do you mean? So it's not the Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc.,
the city-
DBA, Advent
the ci-
Health?
The city,
the city owns it, yeah.
the city of Tarpon Springs owns the hospital. The hospital foundation may have some lease position, but I thought the city leased it.
Well,
It's
this is
kinda
what you
compli-
guys discussed, so
Kinda-
I just
yeah,
went by what you discussed.
I know, I
So
was-
if it's not supposed to be in there, I have
Day
no,
I was gone, I think I was gone that
Oh.
day. The one.
John's correct. The city owns the hospital. Advent Health leases the hospital. Advent Health has changed their name from what we had in the charter as the leasee to what we are adding. So, but. it
that's what I
should-
put in there. The city hospital has changed its name. So you want me to say the hospital?
This,
Okay, so Andy, here's how it was. There may have been a slight change. The city of Tarpon Springs always owned the hospital, still owns the hospital.
Okay.
It's leased either to the hospital foundation or it's leased directly to the Advents. I'm not sure. There's still a foundation, so it could be that the foundation is the in-between. I'm not
I think
positive.
that, yeah, I think that's the comments we received from
I mean,
the
So
hospital.
the wording's right in
foundation
the
is just a
charter.
leaseholder.
yeah.
But, okay, so I guess the question is, what we put in here is, we were just dealing solely with the city hospital name to be correct.
No, but you've got the foundation owning the hospital, and that's not correct.
That's what we were told at that.
No, here's the thing. It's right in the charter section. The whereas needs to be changed, so it reads, the city charter presently references the leaseholder of the city hospital.
Okay.
The bottom line's been all along is that under no circumstances should there be any confusion
About ownership.
that the city owns a hospital. So
Right.
any way you can write around that.
Right,
It's
no,
fine.
the charter language is correct. Here, that was a good good catch. So anyway, it's, if you can just add in the leaseholder of, between the and city in the first whereas, and then replace in the second one, the city hospital with the leaseholder.
Okay.
Okay, I have notes on that. And that the Board of Commissioners shall require the Board of Commissioners shall require on all leases of the city-owned property, DBA Advent Health North Pinellas, that Advent Health North Pinellas, DBA the Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, and all its successors and assignment, I mean, not unilateral, blah, blah. This section shall be required to be referenced in any lease agreement, and it goes down, of that city-owned property.
Right, this is correct.
Well,
Well, why don't we look at the changes, right?
But see,
Those are the changes to the section.
Andy, the language, but Carrie, I don't think the language is correct because it says all leases of the city-owned property now known as, the city-owned property now known as Advent Health, it should be maybe now leased to Advent Health North Pinellas.
City
I
shall
mean, it's-
require in all leases of the city-owned
Yeah.
property,
Yeah.
now known.
I mean, it was a huge battle, so I think Jimmy will tell you, we got to be really clear that it's city-owned property and we lease it to somebody, and I'm not clear anymore because it's been a long time, whether we lease it to the hospital foundation, who then in turn leases it to the Advent, or we lease directly to the Advent and the hospital foundation is a good guy's outfit.
Well, we could
John,
just,
you know?
we
John,
could
you
just
know?
change it to lessee. Forget the first one and move up A. Lessee and all its successors and assigns. And then B,
You know?
lessee.
Is it necessary to include the DBA Tarpon Hospital Foundation?
I didn't do that because you don't really mention the DBA. You mentioned what the company name is for our purposes, but we could just to take out Advent Health completely and just put lessee.
Yeah, but Commissioner Kolianis is here, and you sit on the board, right? The foundation board, John?
I'm North Pinellas Foundation. I'm not on the Tarpon Springs,
Hospital
they're
Foundation.
like the hospital foundation,
Do
two
you-
different boards.
Do you know the relationship between the hospital foundation?
Who's got the documents?
I mean,
I mean, you guys shouldn't be making any changes here unless you
right,
review the actual documents.
Right.
We had, what we had is the hospital came and made a presentation.
but he didn't bring documents.
No,
You need to see the document. And when you say that the hospital, the city owns the hospital, are you referring to the building or are you referring to the actual?
The the
operation.
building and the dirt. The building and dirt.
So when you say the hospital is a functioning entity. That's different than the building.
but
It's-
remember, this is the
So
current
we're not
language.
leasing-
Well, we're trying to,
This is-
We're not leasing the hospital to them, we're leasing a building to them.
the dirt and the building.
Right.
No, there's a,
But when you say,
the business is owned by the Advents. That's what you're saying, yeah. I don't
Now,
disagree.
you could, and somebody could own the hospital and should actually own the functioning entity and then lease that to somebody. And I don't think that's what's happening here.
That's not,
So when you guys refer to leasing the hospital, it should be leasing the building.
and the
Again, I haven't
dirt.
seen the documents. You guys shouldn't make any change unless you see the doc.
I agree with you, because
Because you don't want any,
there's,
you don't want any contradictory
you're right about that.
things in your charter. It's too important,
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
The city of Tarpon leased the hospital to Advent for numerous years.
They said the
570 in my
Right.
notes.
building or the hospital?
You know, the lease would tell
When
him, I
they
think-
purchased it, it was when they leased it, it was a hospital.
They leasing the
And their
building?
intent was to continue its use as a hospital.
So, just so you know, the section is called City Hospital. That's the titled section. And the only change that we made in this, the only change we made
Right.
is taking away the space between Advent and Health.
And adding city-owned,
And no,
yes,
Yeah. City-owned property in section B.
down at the last sentence.
oh, the last sentence. Yes,
Right.
I'm sorry, but there's,
Right.
that's the only
That-
change we
That's
made
the only one.
to the charter.
Carrie, it doesn't mean that it's right.
No,
Oh, it doesn't mean it's right.
but
I'm just saying
So,
what we did.
I think Commissioner Kolianis's suggestion that we get the document, there was a lease, and I think the lease was approved in referendum because it had to be for more than 10 years. And I think the lease was approved for 30 years, and it went up substantially from what it used to be. I would ask that Mr. Salzman pull the lease
Yeah.
and see what it says. But I know that it's the city of Tarpon Springs leases the hospital to either the Advent or to the hospital foundation.
So let's assume, all right, so let's talk about, assume I find the lease says that it's leased to Advent Health.
That's fine.
Okay, so then we would leave this language the same?
Can I?
Or would we say, or would we go back to what I was saying, which is, I mean, what if it changes again, right? Are we going to lessor or leasee?
So my understanding is that the city owns the dirt.
No,
The
John.
building reverts to the city upon the end of the lease. So we're leasing the land to them.
Well, that's not
so-
my understanding. That's not my understanding, John.
Well, how about if you just reword it along the lines
How
that
about
Mr.
I move we
Salzman is
table it.
saying, and say, shall require in all leases of the city-owned property operated as a hospital that the lessee and all its successors, and then B, agreement between the lessee and all its successors.
That's fine with me.
That covers this and
I would move
and
that we
future.
table it until we get the lease out and see what it says.
We
Yeah,
don't
but
need,
that's-
we don't need.
I move that we table it until we. can-
Table it or defer it?
Well, defer it until we get the lease and,
The most important thing is when they made their presentation, it was very clear where they were headed. They've been heading in that direction for a number of years, and we wanted it clear in the charter that that hospital building and dirt belongs to the city of Tarpon Springs. Now, how you write that in a lease to Advent is another story,
no, the
but
lease is already there, Jimmy.
the lease is there, but they want this stuff changed.
I know, but the lease was written by some guys who were really competent in what they did, as far as the lease. So I would want to see the lease
I don't
before we
have a
change
problem
the
with seeing the
language.
lease. I'm just letting everybody know this is one of the most important, if not the most important thing that we're dealing with.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we have to make the language here match with what the lease says.
Well, the only thing that would be in the lease is paragraph A. And the extent of change there is correcting how the name of the hospital is referred to in this document.
Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc.
That's what I thought.
But there was a lease and a referendum, Andy, the last one.
No, I'm just reading the lease.
Get you to change it to match the lease.
Yeah. Or to change it,
Yeah.
not
change
match
your
the lease.
language to
They,
match their
they
lease.
wanted the charter to change.
Right.
I just,
They need to change the lease.
Well, the lease is with Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc.
so Andy, here's what happens. The city leases it to the Hospital Foundation, Inc.
Yes.
And they in turn lease it to the Advents. Because if we're leasing it to the Hospital Foundation, Inc., we can't simultaneously lease it to the Advents.
No, they're under a DBA relationship. It's just a
Right.
name.
Right, but it's,
Well, that's why I put in there DBA Advent Health.
Mm-hmm.
But we could remove Advent Health completely and just put in Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc.
yeah.
That's who the lease is with. There's no
We
mention
match
of
the,
DBA, there's no mention of Advent Health.
I say we match the lease.
Okay, so help me understand this.
Yes. Doing business. No, we don't have to have that language in there at all. I mean, probably yeah, it's probably better just to put the foundation, right, and leave out Advent Health. Because
Right.
foundation is who we have the lease with.
That's where I'm at.
The Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation,
Right. But I think I looked up Sunbiz to see how they were listed. But no, it's cleaner to just do it as Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc. That's who we have the lease with.
and the definition of those members is what?
The what, Jimmy?
The
Say that again?
definition of the foundation.
Well, the foundation, there's,
A Florida
used to be-
not-for-profit corporation.
Right, it's a 501c3, right?
Could that be members of Advent?
they are on the foundation.
It could be,
Members.
but remember, there's no reason why we put in Advent Health if that's not who we have the lease with.
You got the lease.
Right, I'm looking at it. So I can change this language to just remove Advent Health completely.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why I thought the first occurrence, you'd have the whole thing there, Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc., DBA, Advent Health North Pinellas, in that first sentence, and then you can refer to Advent Health after that, because because then that makes sense.
Here's my problem. No, here, listen. If you read section 14, and I'm pretty good at reading these things, that says to update the name of the city hospital to the Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation.
Right.
No,
That's not what we're doing.
no, no. It's the city of Tarpon Springs Hospital, not the hospital foundation's.
Actually,
hospital.
You're right.
That's what has to be changed. The foundation has members from the hospital on it, and we're worried about maintaining that. It
right,
belongs
so it
to
would
the
be the
city.
update the name of the city hospital, leasee, in the charter
Is
section.
section 14 new, totally new, or?
The new, no.
No.
Section 14 is just, it's just a summary of what we're doing.
2019,
Section
2019.
You're right. Section 14 is just a summary of what you're doing.
Right,
So
so.
if section 14 is incorrect, then we make the change to section 14. It doesn't change the charter language.
Yeah, you're not, I mean, we're not changing the name of city hospital to the leasee name. We're changing the name of the leasee to the leasee name.
It's just basically, right. So proposed amendment to section 33 of the city charter to update the leasee's name.
Right.
And then,
But what about the preamble kind of thing, Andy? That's not right.
which part?
Proposed amendment to section 33 of the city charter to update the name of the city hospital.
Right, no. I was changing that.
Okay,
So it should say, city charter to update the leasee's name to remove of the city hospital. So it would say, proposed amendment to section 33 of the city charter to update the leasee's name to Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc. Do you want the DBA or not? That's my question.
no.
Okay, so if we remove the DBA, then that's gone. Then it'll say, and to clarify that future leases and amendments to leases or articles of incorporation shall only involve city-owned property. So and then, so we'll remove the word Advent, where you see Advent Health, it'll be replaced with Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc. Under section 33, A, B, and right before that.
Well, it's more than that. It's not known as that. It's leased by.
Yeah.
Leased by, got it. So leased by on that first paragraph, and then the other two will just,
Well, you
Right,
gotta take
that's
out,
correct.
you gotta take out Advent Health, right?
yes,
Because-
Advent Health will be removed completely,
Okay.
and
now we're
it'll be
getting-
replaced with Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc.
Okay,
And North Pinellas. That, I didn't say every word, sorry. The name will be removed and changed to Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc.
I guess I'll make a motion to that effect. Is that necessary?
Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure. Now we have to have a second.
second,
Thank you, John.
So we can take out Advent Health
Yes,
in the language.
yes.
If, in fact, in the future, all members of the hospital, Advent, are the only members on the foundation.
no, there's a mix, Jimmy, they got a, They got a
It's-
couple-
It's not in here.
right, but the fact
We would,
is,
I understand what you're saying. If the entity changes and it's necessary to change the lease, we would do that accordingly. But right now, our lease is solely with that entity.
If the foundation changes, because that's who is leasing to Advent, and every member of that foundation is Advent,
that's not true, though.
It doesn't matter to
Doesn't
us.
matter. Doesn't matter.
or the
Only matters to
control-
us if the foundation ceases to exist and ceases to who the foundation leases to or does their thing with is irrelevant to us. We only care that our lease is with the Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc. Now, if they change who they are and become Advent Health as a business, then we would amend our lease accordingly.
So 10 years from now, the foundation could not sell that property without the citizens going to a referendum.
No,
They don't own the
No,
property.
they don't own it.
the foundation doesn't own it, Jimmy. They have,
We own the property.
They lease it. They're the lessee, correct?
I'm just missing that fact in those paragraphs, that the city owns it, and that's what's most of our language at
the city.
Yes, but that's what we've been discussing is
All
changing,
along,
is
yeah.
specifically identifying Advent Health as
Have
the
to put in the
leasing as
charter that we own it
opposed to
because we don't have to
muddying
put
the
in the charter
waters
of any
with
land.
with
sale
their
we own.
relationship with
maybe
the
to-
city. Those are the changes that are being made now.
To make Jimmy happy,
No, don't have to make me happy.
no,
That's-
yes, I
I
do,
won't
because
be
you
able-
were on that the Health Facilities Authority during the battle, where it says the proposed amendment to section 33 of the city charter update the name of the city-owned hospital. That part's,
That would make me very happy. City-owned hospital.
But
so
we said
there's
we don't
no-
own a hospital.
we
own the
do own the
land.
hospital.
We own
We
the
own the
buildings
dirt
as well.
and the
Right,
building.
so we don't own the hospital, we
Yes, we
own the
do.
land.
We own the land and the building.
Building.
We own the land and the building.
Okay, let's assume we own the land and the building, but we don't own a hospital.
Well, you're
Right.
considering the hospital to be a business, and most people would consider the hospital to be the structure.
Yeah, I consider it a business and it's. I
We
don't
didn't
see-
say that
let
what
me
they
ask you-
own,
Let me say
what they
this to
own,
you.
what they own is a healthcare business. We own the hospital structure.
What, okay, let me ask you let me ask you it this way. Why would we list that we own a city hospital? We don't own that, we don't list that we own city recreational areas. It's owned. We own it. We don't have to put it in the charter.
Because
that
we're
we-
leasing it to an independent party, and because there was a huge lawsuit about the ownership of the property to the foundation, and it was just ugly.
If you want me to put in to update the name of the city-owned hospital, I have no problem doing that.
What about actually saying the city-owned hospital building and land?
There you go.
There we are.
That's completely clear.
You're assuming that we own that, I gotta check that.
Okay.
You have a question in the back? Carrie.
Land. Okay, do we want to reopen public comment or,
I move that we open public comments.
Second,
I move that we open them back up.
second.
well, we'll just do it.
Sorry, George.
Okay, 4 minutes.
Who built that structure that's there right now?
The citizens of Tarpon
Who
Springs.
built the building, the addition to that house?
Well, a lot of it was built by the hospital foundation, who the original foundation, John, who built the hospital, were philanthropic members of the community. Well, you asked the question.
Who built that big structure that's there right now? The Hive building. Advent Health.
Okay, what's the point?
Okay, the point is, we don't own the building. We own the land. We lease
Hmm.
them the land.
You know this for a fact.
No.
No,
The building reverts to us at the end of the lease.
Okay.
They built all that high-rise structure.
Yeah.
So they
And-
built the building.
And how
Well-
is
So when
that,
you say, when you're writing in there, the building and land may be enacted.
well, John, if there's a reverter that the building goes with the land, that's ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And, Andy, is that right?
I gotta look at it to make sure. I don't wanna say anything. I was looking to see if they.
I think that we should come back to this, honestly.
Are on, I'll guarantee that those buildings are on their balance sheet. Built those buildings and everything. on their balance sheet.
I'm not so sure about the original high-rise. That
That was a six-story building. right
Advent
next
came in after I moved here, and that building was there when I moved here.
They've redone that emergency,
They didn't.
they didn't buy it. They didn't buy it.
Correct, Carrie.
The charter before.
They bought it.
I guess we probably need to be very careful.
They didn't buy
They
it.
didn't buy it.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
But
Well, I know they
Merle-
did spend
Merle-
$40 million on the
Merle-
emergency room.
Merle
It is new.
Merle is right, that the six-story building was built by the original Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation. Okay, that were good guys in the community that turned, maybe they got a little twisted. But still, they built the building, and they issued $30 million worth of revenue bonds, because I was the chairman of the Health Facilities Authority that monitored those bonds. And the $30 million went towards the six-story building that was built. And Jimmy was on the authority with me, as well as Dr. Franzese and George Praceres, who's now deceased, and one other guy that I can't remember. But the $30 million built the building. I don't want them inaccurate, that's why.
We don't either,
That's
John.
why.
But your 4 minutes are, you got like 30 seconds left. All right.
Just for the record, John, when we did this 5 years ago, I questioned the previous leader of the hospital when he was going to change those windows in the building because they didn't meet hurricane qualifications. And he looked at me and said, yeah, we promised to do that. We'll get around to it. They never got around to it. They never owned that building. It's not safe. They moved patients out of that hospital when a few years back when we thought there was going to be a bad hurricane coming. So
Okay, what I recommend, we have a motion on the table right now. Andy, do you feel like you can summarize?
poor guy.
The changes are going to be proposed amendment to section 33 of the city charter to update the lessee's name of the city-owned hospital and land to Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc. And then under the actual section where it says Advent Health will be changed to Tarpon Springs Hospital Foundation, Inc. And on that top sentence, the Board of Commissioners shall require in all leases of city-owned property, leased by.
Leased by,
Did I say anything?
leased by the hospital foundation?
Leased by the Tarpon Springs Hospital.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, that jives with what I've got. That, I think it makes, that change makes it
Also
pretty
to look
clear.
No,
The lease, to make sure we're leasing both the land
Yeah,
and the building.
Well, I mean, one thing that, if you look at the second Advent thing on A, I guess, or no, yeah, A, where it says North Pinellas and its successors and assigns may not unilaterally amend its articles of incorporation without the ratification of the city, that ought to tell you who owns the place.
Well, and I suspect it may be in the lease broken down somehow, but there probably are, like the new emergency room that they spent $40 million on, they probably do own. It still reverts at the end of the
Yeah,
lease.
because it's on city
But,
property.
but I suspect, as John said, it's on their balance sheet. But by saying the city-owned
yeah.
building and land, that breaks out. If it's clearly marked that that emergency room isn't city-owned, then the wording still works.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not really worried about it. We added. The city owned land and building. The city doesn't own the building.
City owns a building.
But, well, let's just assume for argument's sake that they don't.
still says city-owned land and building. If you don't own it, it's irrelevant. Doesn't mess up
Yeah.
the charter section.
I
Well,
would.
in,
I
in
would
general, if you are leasing a building and you make a permanent attachment to the wall, it's part of the,
That's right.
Right.
the building, right? And the emergency room is a permanent attachment to the wall. The lobby is a permanent attachment to the wall. It's part of the, somebody else's own building at this point. But, you know, they made an investment because they needed it to do business.
That's right.
They needed it to satisfy their
They're
patient needs.
amortizing
Yeah.
the cost over whatever length of the
Yeah.
lease is.
I have 70
Yeah, I mean,
years.
this is a long-term thing. It's, anyway. So can, can we have our, confirm that the motion that was made reflects what, our city attorney just stated?
So moved.
Second.
A second? All right. Any further comments? Michelle, would you call the vote, please?
Dr. Boogavalis?
Yes.
Ms. Jennings?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini?
Yes.
Vice Chair Colianis?
Yes.
Chair Root?
Yes. Okay. Let's see now. So we've got that. We've got this changed. All right.
Yep.
All right. Do we have any other changes or things to discuss on page 4?
No.
No. Page 5. And this is where we're going to now add paragraph I for the land swap
Mhm.
change,
Where? Missed the page?
okay?
Um,
It's on page 5, right above where it says
Oh, yeah.
section 3.
Yeah.
We're going to add a paragraph I.
And we're still gonna buy the dredge and spoil sites without a referendum?
I'm sorry?
I said we're still gonna buy the dredge and spoil sites without a referendum?
Mm-mm. No.
Oh, we are?
Eminent domain. Be-
Yeah, that's what I said, without a referendum.
Yes.
Just for the record, I'm not for that. But
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there any other comments on page 5? We're looking at this one. Okay, page 6. This brings in Mr. Kuskudis's recommended change.
That's what's on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Blue,
Mhm.
the blue
Right.
is his change.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So are we in agreement with that?
Hard to read. As a
Uh,
result of the effects of population growth, comma, environmental changes and impacts, comma, including the introduction of invasive species, comma, the city of Tarpon Springs. Oh, I can see it better up there, I'm sorry.
The yellow is a part that I did not put in, that you had originally discussed from the memo I created. So I added that because that was missing.
From what I was expecting to see was, we've got a paragraph for the comprehensive plan. We have a paragraph for the strategic plan. I was expecting to see a paragraph for the sustainability plan.
Separate paragraph?
That's what I was
I
expecting to see.
think, yeah, this doesn't really work for me.
No.
It's two different topics. I think it
Right.
should be separate.
A separate paragraph for.
Carrie, was what you're proposing in this memo?
Yes, but it's not worded as nicely as I probably should have.
I see.
I just point out the fact that what was there was not what I expected. I didn't tell him how to change it because I thought that it was worth a conversation here.
Okay.
The language that you originally adopted.
This is
Yellow.
the yellow. But that, so Carrie, that is a separate paragraph, right?
Well, not right now. It would need to have, after the yellow, it would, that, when it goes to review and update the comprehensive plan, that's where a paragraph should be added.
So you want I to be where the blue and the yellow is, and the rest of the underline to be a J,
Right.
and then renumber all the way down.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
it says to review, make that
So
a new paragraph.
I would move that we make, who's got the cursor?
Can you scroll back up to where it's blue and yellow?
So we,
Thank you. Yeah, John's making a point right now,
yeah.
a motion.
So I would move that the blue and yellow on the screen be paragraph I, and where it starts the white underline to review and update the comprehensive plan be the new paragraph J, and then renumber the following paragraphs as needed, or read.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So the second paragraph's gonna be J,
J.
Mhm.
and then
Yeah,
we're
then
gonna change all these others.
Yes. Any further comment? Can we call the vote, please?
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Ms. Jennings,
Yes.
Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Terrapini,
Yes.
Vice Chair Colianis,
Yes.
Chair Root.
Yes. Do we have any other comments on page 6? Moving on to page 7. Moving on to page 8.
Shouldn't 2021 be changed?
20.
Which,
Is beginning fiscal year
number 3.
2021?
Oh,
That's under R.
It's under
Well,
3 on the top of the
It
page.
hasn't been done yet, and if we change it to 2026,
Starts the clock over
then,
then.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
Okay,
I wouldn't change it.
yeah, you don't want to change that, right?
okay.
Nope, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think so.
Is Corps of Engineers with an S at the end?
Yes.
The corpse.
Yes.
of engineer.
Yes,
I believe it has an S at the end.
it does.
Not
Army Corps
here.
of Engineers.
Not here.
Mine's got an S.
The
Mine has
core
an S.
doesn't though.
Oh, core.
Mine
No,
doesn't.
core doesn't.
Where's your, what are you looking?
Yes.
No, CORPS.
Let him finish discussing corpses. Right, are we gonna add an S to course then?
I think, let's look it up. I think.
Did you
I think it
notice
is.
that
Yes, it does have an S.
Scrivener's
I was looking.
error? Andy?
I'm looking at it.
Did
I
you
just
see
looked it up. It is CROPS, CORPS.
Okay. All right, your comment now?
Under
Grammar code.
3 of page 8, I thought when we discussed this, we talked about having language that the city had to maintain the cuts, meaning they're responsible for the cleaning of the sand or what have you. It's not the main channel that the feds are responsible for.
It's under,
But this says the city shall maintain a navigation chart of the local channels and cuts. Doesn't say they're going to
what about on page 7, Jimmy?
page 7.
Yeah.
You guys are messing with me now. It's on page 8.
The last paragraph on page 7, does that cover it?
Yeah, the prior paragraph 2 says that. It says recreational boating access to and between Antelope Rivers, estuaries, and city bayous shall be provided by maintaining a safe navigational depth as determined by the city's state regulatory agencies and the Corps of Engineers as the
Bye-bye.
city's historically established
My bad.
local
Thank you.
channels and cuts.
Appreciate it.
All right,
Page 8?
yes, page 8, we're on
Yes.
page 8.
Okay, so, section 11. I think we almost got it right. That's why I said almost. What do you think's wrong, Andy?
There's not a state qualified.
Well, I was talking a little more than grammar, but,
Well, you can fix the grammar and the qualifying period, because it's 30 days prior to whatever the code currently has. It's really
yeah.
it's really our time period. The code has a time for qualifying under 213. It says no person may qualify as a candidate in accordance with section 212 prior to the 112th day preceding the next city election.
Well, that was in the paragraph above it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to, you wanted to add the qualifying time, and we're trying to figure out what to relate that to get the 30 day.
Well, but I had other, we left some language was left out that we agreed upon, which was that the notice also tells what seats and are they eligible to, who holds the seat, who holds the seat. The notice should say who holds the seat and are they eligible to run again in the notice of the election.
If they're not eligible, you mean if they're eligible to run past that seat?
Well,
that
you
they're
get
being elected?
two terms. So if they're in their first term, they're eligible to run for a second term.
Correct.
And if in their second term, they're not eligible. And then, be an open seat, yeah. Thanks.
Okay,
You're
so
right.
there's,
No,
there's,
you're right, Michelle.
John, there's 3 sentences. Each one has kind of a very specific
Yeah. But
focus. So
But that was we agreed
the
upon
the
that
second
language.
sentence, you're saying that shall be, the notice, a notice indicating who holds the seat and if they are eligible for reelection,
Right.
but shall be
And-
sent to all city registered voters 30 days prior to the qualifying period, et cetera. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, the indicating who holds should go after the commission seats open for election, indicating who holds a seat and if they are eligible. Okay, so that's, the third sentence is okay?
What's the starts the third
The
sentence?
information shall be posted on the city's social
except
media
for the-
website and announced in.
It should be the
press-
information shall also be posted, just the
Oh,
word
also.
also.
Okay. And how about the first sentence is now where the question is, when do we need to say what the qualifying time is?
Is try to changes every election.
Just say 30 days prior to the qualifying period.
Yeah, 30 days prior to the qualifying period, not a date or anything.
30 days prior to the qualifying period.
That's on the first sentence, it's underlined.
Okay, you understand that that's gonna change every time, so, okay.
What's going to change?
Well, that's something that the city clerk will manage.
What's going to change?
It's not something the charter has to
When the
manage.
qualifying
Yeah, the date is.
period
Honestly,
is.
none of this language is. This language is in the code section. That's why we have a code section.
Well,
Right.
the trouble, Andy, was that it was changed by a city manager and a commission back in ancient history. So I don't think that the elections of the city commissioners, I think, are so important that we don't want the people to be able just to change it like an ordinance change.
And you're right, it changed like an ordinance.
So we need to make the ordinance consistent with, if this charter change
we will have to
passes,
change the
then you have to
Yeah.
make it consistent.
The ordinance would be, and Irene and I talked, ordinance would, we change the ordinance to conform with
Yeah.
whatever the charter changes.
Okay, so we're happy with the charter change suggestion for the first sentence.
Qualifying time for the office of the city commissioner shall be 30 days prior to the qualifying period.
The state qualifying period.
No,
Just-
state is
just-
removed.
State is removed. Okay.
Am I the only one that's still confused by that? The qualifying time is prior to the qualifying time?
Qualifying time. for the
Yes.
office, City commissioner shall be 30 days prior to the qualifying period. There's a qualifying period that changes every election.
So that's
Okay,
different from the qualifying time.
Right.
Okay,
I don't think anyone's going to understand that.
So the qualifying period's
it's
gonna
pretty
run
easy.
for the March elections.
People are going to,
It
say,
usually
what's the
runs
difference
around
between-
Thanksgiving.
I know, but people
Okay.
are going to read this and say, what's the difference between the qualifying time and the qualifying period?
Well, the people that are running for
They'll care.
All right.
People who pay attention. and
they're the only ones that really care.
One says, we're going to let you know when there's an election coming. The other is, I'm running.
I mean, that is what
Yeah.
John said, it's true. That is what we're doing.
Yeah.
One is telling you.
it's just the wording
when
is
the time-
awkward.
But,
It is.
but honestly, what happens is somebody who's running for office comes in and talks to the city clerk and they tell them, you have to do it by this date. So I'm not worried about somebody knowing.
But the problem, Andy, was in a lot of elections in this town, since there was no notice and it was such 8 days to qualify, people got elected, nobody knew there was even an election.
No, and I know the idea that you're trying to do is broaden the knowledge, be more specific as to what positions are open, what people are currently running for, whether it's one term maximum, or 2 terms, I got it. And notification. Obviously, there needs to be more notification.
No, I think that makes sense. So we're making 2 changes here. In the first sentence, we're removing state.
Right.
And the second sentence, we're adding to the end, indicating who holds the seat and if they are eligible for reelection.
And then we're doing a
Is the
third sentence.
Also posted.
also, shall also.
And then we're adding also to the third sentence.
Yes.
I guess I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Michelle, would you call the vote on that?
Dr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Ms. Jennings,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Carabani,
Yes,
Vice Chair Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, John.
5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. Be back here at 20 after.
I did that for Mike.
In his honor.
Yes, it is freezing. I'm so used to freezing.
Are we halfway? The Charter Review Commission, all right, we were on page 8. I think we've taken care of section 11, subparagraph A. Are there any other changes to this page? Yeah, well, and the Scrivener. Okay, moving on to page 9.
I think paragraph D could use some discussion after what happened recently.
Paragraph D.
Yeah, about, replacing people who have left office.
I can clarify it if you I've already had to give an opinion.
Okay.
Basically, there are 2 ways to fill the position. One way to fill the position is you take a current member of the board, selects that person to fill the position, they fill the remainder of that term. They vacated their position, and that position needs to be filled the same way, which is within 60 days, someone needs to be selected. If you don't do it within 60 days, we contact the governor, and the governor appoints someone. The interesting thing I think about this section, and I give whoever drafted this, whether it was one of y'all, a lot of credit, is that it doesn't count towards the person's 2 terms, which I think is an area that could have been very confusing if the language wasn't. So you're filling the person's position, but it doesn't affect your ability should you decide to run for that position.
So my question then would be, if you have a commissioner that's in his 2nd term and he's appointed to fill, let's say, the mayor's spot, does that mean he can run again for 2 more full terms? Because right now you
No.
can't.
He's in his 2nd term and he fills in. At the end of that, he can't run again because he can only hold 2.
So in other words, he can't run again.
He can't.
See,
If
he's
he's
saying
at
he
the,
can.
if he's at the end of his.
If he's in his
If
2nd
he's
term,
in his 2nd term and he fills in for
that's,
Right.
that's what his
and he fills
commissioner.
in
Right.
for 3 months, he can come back and get 2 more years? Okay.
If he's
It's
in his,
first term,
His
if he's
is
in his
first
first
term.
term,
Yeah.
he can, and he fills, he still gets another whole term.
he gets another.
He'll
whole
get
thing
it.
in that case.
Let's say one of the commissioners is deciding to run for mayor. And that person, if they're serving for the 7 months that are remaining, doesn't count against their ability to run.
As long as he's had a term coming to him, yes.
If that person though is in their 2nd term and they took a position as mayor temporarily and then an election was held before the end of their term, they can't go back to their old position, obviously.
No,
So
'cause it would've been
they're just done at that point.
They're done.
Now, the other way of doing this, which is probably the cleaner way of doing it, is actually what was done before, which is to appoint somebody from the outside into that position, and then they fill the remaining 7 months.
Okay, that's
So
okay.
it fills the remaining 7 months that they have, and then everybody, whatever the normal election cycle
But
is
it's-
going to
it's-
happen.
As far as the language, you think it's well-written?
I think it was, I think this is a very hard section, and I think the language was well-written, and I like the idea that it addressed the issue of subsequent terms and whether it counts for your subsequent terms. I like that. I thought that was good foresight by the Charter Revision Commission, which maybe you guys did, I don't know.
Was there another question that you wanted to have addressed by?
No, I just, I think what Andy said is very valuable. I think he cleared up a lot.
And the other issue, honestly, if we ran into a problem with this, we would go to the Attorney General's office.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything else on that section?
Section E, paragraph E.
Yeah.
Where it says any mayor or commissioner who shall is struck.
Right.
Miss 2 regular meetings in succession shall be deemed. Why did he strike out shall?
Because I looked it up grammatically.
Okay.
It's the grammar police has
So I
struck.
put it in, I figured I can't let something slide if it's.
Well, shouldn't it be misses then? Who misses 2 regular meetings?
No. Because it's an or, so it's reflecting an individual.
Mhm.
He misses 2 regular meetings.
Kind of tough, huh?
Huh?
Kind of tough.
If you're not liked by the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done.
And that goes to the, right.
It's worked this way for a long time.
Has it been in there a while, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Who misses
yes.
2 regular
It's
meetings?
always
Say
wrong.
Mrs.?
It should say misses.
I would say Mrs.
I'll put it in.
Because it's or.
Easier thing to just leave the shower.
Says when I put it in.
Damn AI.
Amen to that.
When you said Mrs. initially, I thought Mr. Mrs. I know.
Who misses 2 regular meetings?
It's actually tough. You know, sometimes people, regular, but it's regular meetings. So if we have a special meeting, that doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a budget meeting counts. Workshop doesn't count, so this can't be done for more than a couple of weeks on a normal cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then on 12, Carrie, the zoning powers. Andy, why did we strike out, or did you strike out special exceptions?
We had this discussion, let's see. Because we said it, the way it reads now is to hear and decide appeals solely from administrative staff decisions for special exceptions. We're not limiting, we don't want to limit it.
Okay, so it's
So it's
not taking a
administrative
power
staff
away from them, it's, you're not taking power away from the Board of Adjustment.
No, you're
Appeals.
adding.
You're adding,
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's fine. Okay. I'm good.
Okay, are we ready to move on? We're done with 9. On to page 10.
I have a question on 13. We have a city manager form of government. Why would we want the elected officials interfering? I don't understand why we're taking that language out. Maybe I missed something.
Well, on 7-8, there was a discussion, and we, oh, wait a minute. On 5-13, was way back. We made a decision to remove that last sentence.
Yeah, maybe I was asleep that day or something, but I think that's just in total conflict with a city manager form of government.
Well, I think it's redundant, because if you go and it says that the Board of Commissioners or members individually shall deal with city officers and employees solely through the charter official who supervises that city officer or
Where
employee.
do you see that, Carrie?
Hmm?
Where do you see that?
That's
The
the
paragraph.
first sentence.
Oh,
I think that's what, yeah, I think that's.
It was
what came up, that
redundant,
it was
that's why,
redundant.
Right.
that's why we did that.
Right.
okay.
Yep.
So it doesn't, we're not changing it to where the commissioners can interfere with the city manager's
No.
job.
No, we're encouraging them telling them if they want to do something, they have to go through him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay.
that's,
Are there any other questions on page 10?
Somewhere in here I read where when the city internal auditor finds a problem,
That's probably on page 11.
yeah, it's on 11, Jimmy, I think is what
Okay,
you're looking
yeah,
for.
that we haven't gotten there yet. Don't read
I'm-
ahead.
I'm in a hurry too.
Okay, are we done with page 10? All right, let's go to page 11. Yeah, and
It is here. I
Yeah.
see.
I went on there.
I think in I there, it probably should say before being provided to the Board of Commissioners.
I agree with that.
Report of all finding or non-compliance issues to the city manager and the city attorney to review before being provided.
More
I have then to after and,
Or before providing them to the,
Yeah,
either one.
yeah, either way.
yeah.
one or the other.
And I have a question about exempting personnel issues. Is that,
Where's that?
where? No, it's in my notes.
Did we vote on that?
Well,
I don't
we discussed how personnel issues should be dealt with, and that's why adding the city attorney was added there so that those that could be discussed by the city manager and city attorney and directed, the feedback.
Well, also, they could determine if there's a personnel issue that shouldn't be exposed
Right.
publicly. I mean, they could make that decision, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that way it won't be a big thing on the Tuesday night that shouldn't have been said, right?
Right.
Heard that somewhere. It was a good change.
On number 3, the very last sentence, the assistant city manager will serve as the acting city manager in the city manager's absence.
Where you said,
The very last sentence on the page, Andy.
the city manager shall serve as the acting city manager.
In the city manager's absence.
Yeah, I think the reason why I didn't put that.
Because there's a section that talks about
The acting
when
city
you
manager,
would
yeah.
have an acting city manager. In other words, when the city manager is absent.
Yeah, I think.
So
that's
do we need to
exactly-
repeat that here for clarity?
For my simple brain, it would help.
Well, I mean, no, it's a good comment.
Let me just look.
Would it hurt to be redundant on that, Andy? So if somebody's reading this for the first time without looking at the whole charter, they say, oh, yeah, it's in the city
Well,
manager's.
that's
zone.
why I didn't put that whole section in there. That's why I just want to look at it real quick. So what it says is, under acting city manager, the city manager shall designate in writing, subject to approval of the Board of Commissioners, a qualified city administrative officer to exercise the powers and perform the duties of city manager during any temporary absence or disability. Now, remember, this section is literally right in front, it's section 2, so it's right above the assistant city manager section. That's why I didn't put it in there. But whatever, I'm happy.
Can you just move that section into this document?
No.
No, okay.
No,
I have a non-related question. is it ordinance terminology to have section numbers for section numbers?
Yes.
That's really confusing.
Well, otherwise.
But I
that's how we do
appreciate
what-
that you did the bolding to indicate the
Right, that's how you
charter.
do any section in an ordinance.
Okay.
Shall I?
So you'll know that they're different, right? They're different issues that are being discussed.
Okay.
So Andy, what you just read, where is that?
It's in section
Oh,
2,
it's in the
which is
book.
literally right in front of that section.
But this is section 8, so how could it be right in front of it?
It's section, you're looking at section 8, I'm misspeaking.
You're-
So
section 16.
is what you're looking at.
Yeah, okay.
Section 16 has a 1, a 2, and a 3. I don't include
Okay.
sections that are not
Okay.
part of the changes.
Here, right there.
So section 2 spells
Yeah,
out
I got it.
everything
I
about
understand.
The
I
acting
just
city
lost my-
manager.
Thanks,
Acting city
Michelle.
Okay, can I ask a grammatical question? Point G, prioritizing future capital improvement programs and making such recommendations to the board.
No. I think it's right. I don't think.
It should be
so.
prioritized, not in.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew something was wrong there.
Yeah.
You know why I didn't put prioritize? It said, keep the Board of Commissioners fully advised as to the financial condition and future needs of the city.
Oh,
Prioritizing future capital improvement program. Because that's part of what they're actually doing versus,
then it needs a comma after the clause.
yeah.
Okay, and then mistake is,
Then it's
then make
right.
is correct.
Yeah.
So you want to
I
leave,
knew that because I had looked at that a couple.
Add a
different-
comma.
this is step.
Yeah.
Prioritizing stays in.
Correct.
Yes.
That it is. There's a comma after programs and then make remains make
Yes,
under.
that's correct.
Step. Okay. Okay. Any other comments on page 11? On to page 12. Whoop,
When you get to 12, can I address it before we go any further?
yes, section 12, page 12.
All right. This was a little complicated. You guys spent a lot of time. You came up with some really good suggestions on this. However, I screwed up a little on my writing. And let me see if I understand correctly what everybody wants to do. The first paragraph I added, which is, I think, the simple one, that was saying that we're going to make the city manager, assistant city manager, fire chief, and police chief within the boundary limits that you created. That's not a problem. The second paragraph is a bit of a problem. I wrote it the way you discussed it, but I did talk to the city manager about this, and I think he had a very good point. He was suggesting that instead of all department heads and directors, that we go back up to the first paragraph and take anybody that wasn't specifically put in the second paragraph and list them in the third paragraph. So instead of saying all department heads and directors, we would say city clerk, administrative services director, public services director, development director, and planning and zoning director are required to live within 10 miles of the Tarpon Springs City Hall.
I think it's,
Because all directors do not need to be within 10.
I don't, that's the city manager's point of view, but that wasn't the point of view of the
No,
committee.
I'm just saying what
But
we
I think where
discussed.
the,
and
where
his-
the
His
mistake,
concern was,
yeah.
again, was hiring and finding people that are qualified.
We gave quite a bit, but the one mistake that I see is the last sentence.
Yes.
That it should be within the 10-mile radius
Right.
instead of
Yes.
city's planning boundary.
I screwed that one up, I know.
No problem.
That one I will fix.
Okay. The other thing too is,
I'm happy with
as
it.
soon as we put more positions in here and an org chart change happens,
Well, you are correct, but I guess the point that he was making, and I'll be his advocate for this, is that those positions that are mentioned are mainstay positions that are necessary and required, right? That's why we listed them to begin with in the charter. You thought of those positions as being the positions that are needed to be close to the city.
I'm happy the way it's written.
Well, then maybe this might be facilitated by taking your first paragraph and kind of working it into the first paragraph here to just mention those. Your second sentence in that paragraph should maybe come at the end of it. And then we aren't mentioning all those other positions. And then we can just say all department heads and director and go ahead with your second paragraph.
No, but that's what he's objecting to.
That's what he's objecting to.
he doesn't want all
He wants to
department heads and
limit- Right,
directors.
he wants to limit only those
I think this
needed positions
That's what
to be
we said.
within.
what
So
our
you have
intent was.
your super group that has to be within the city.
Right.
Your next group that is needed needs to be within 10
10
miles of the
miles.
city. And the rest of them do not, is what the city manager.
Well, then put those down there.
No,
But John
Madam
objects
Chair.
to it.
I think that it conveys the reflection of exactly what we agreed to after a couple hours of discussion. So I would move that stay like it is, with the exception of changing it, the last sentence, to 10-mile
Right.
radius. And it reflects what we talked about. And if it's not right, they can fix it in 5 years.
They can.
What happens in 5
I
years?
just say leave it
So
alone.
the second one does say 10 miles. What was the
No,
change?
No,
it's the last
At the
sentence.
very end.
The very,
it didn't.
very end of the second
Sorry,
paragraph.
it should have
Oh,
said-
okay.
It should have
All
said
right.
10 miles.
Must reside within the
I-
10-mile.
I think Andy caught it just how we asked for it to be caught, so I'm,
Yeah, I would agree. Other than
Yeah.
that, it's what we intended, I think. and-
Right.
And, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I agree with John. I mean, we spent a lot of time
Did,
on this.
okay.
And if, you know, the really to consider it, we would have to have a list. You
Well, he
know,
was saying the list is, he wanted it to be the specific list that it's in the top, the first paragraph, and it's not included in the second. So that's why I was saying, he was recommending city clerk, administrative services director, public services director, development director, planning and zoning director.
but then they just change, what happens when they change the names? You know, they just-
yeah, he'll change the name in the org chart. That's
Yeah.
how you get around that.
So I think you did a nice job writing that.
Thank you.
And we're staying the course with the exception of that 10-mile
Wow.
update. Okay,
And that was just script, that was my mistake.
okay. Does anyone else have a change or a statement on 12? We're running out of pages here. I really
Thank-
thought we were going to be
thank
here till
goodness.
5 o'clock today.
We hate to disappoint you.
Well, and then on 13, we've already addressed the issues.
Well, I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay,
Don't jump the gun. I'll have to gavel you. All right,
won't be the first.
page 13.
We address these issues, and I'm gonna add the language.
The
chair-
sidewalk.
Well, I have a thing, if we're taking out that the monthly financials have made available in the office of the city clerk and the collector and quarterly financials made of it, where do people see them? How do they know where to look for them? On where it's stricken out the monthly financial statements?
Do we put those on the?
They're online.
They're online, automatically online.
Then-
As long as I've been in the office, no one's ever come.
Well, then my only thing is if we're taking it out where where they're not gonna be, we should at least tell people where they will be. Right?
I mean, when I'm looking for something, and I do frequently, I just go to that section where all the documents are listed and I look in there.
You're a little more sophisticated than the average bear, though, when it comes to city government.
Yeah, but you can't put everything in here that they might be
No, well, we're
looking
taking
for.
something out. We could, it just said, I don't care. I just, it just hit me that we're taking it out to where you can find these financial statements because it was already in there. It was already in there, Tina, that here's where you can find the financial statements. And now we're taking it out, but we're not telling them where you can get them.
I just don't really feel like it needs to be there. I think it's pretty common, not just for the city, but for a lot of places, that these things are available and you just look around the site.
Okay, well,
I agree with Tina. That is what everything is done now online.
okay, well, you know, to borrow Mike's
I
phrase,
thought
it's
we
not a
had a
hill to die
statement
on.
we added about having things available
thought so,
electronically.
too.
So I'm kind of being
I don't
pulled back
think-
from
did we-
John's
I didn't see
perspective.
that.
Well, I'm looking for that.
Because everything, I
20,
mean, there is a
yeah.
requirement now to put everything online.
Right. Oh, that's right. There's already a requirement. That's why we didn't specifically
Right.
put that in here.
The only time something isn't put online,
Mhm.
frankly, is if we get a situation where it's difficult to meet some kind of ADA requirement.
Mhm.
That's the only time we don't, because sometimes it's financially impossible.
Well, I don't think it would be hurting anything if we left monthly financial statements shall be made available via the city website. That's what you're asking for.
Do whatever you want.
If it helps somebody, leave it in there.
Might,
Yeah.
Yeah, it does no
Well, it's
harm.
not, I mean, it's a new sentence. We
I-
don't say it.
I mean, I just think I would certainly go to the website before I went looking through the city charter to figure out where things are.
I mean, that is, I gotta tell
Yeah.
you, that is the norm.
And I agree.
The norm is that everything is online now, and frankly, the other thing is people will contact the city clerk's office and say, I'd like to know where such and such is, and the city clerk, who is also the public records custodian, has an obligation to tell them where they are or provide it to them.
Right. Okay. I'm a don't care. Do we want to
it's not,
voice
like
you
Mike
don't
says,
care?
it's not a hill worth dying on.
Right.
You're,
Yeah, leave it deleted.
this is not something you want to die over. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it as it is. Okay. Now, just for clarification on section 26, was this about the sidewalks?
Yes.
We're going to add the sidewalk improvement plan. The city's responsible for adding a sidewalk improvement plan
What we're going to do is,
by 2029. And that the city to budget a minimum of 100,000 to withdraw up to 300K from the fund to be spent during the, according to the terms of the charter.
Where are you?
it's section 26, it's not on there.
Yeah, where it says, section 11 in yellow.
Yeah, okay.
That,
I didn't hear I didn't read the language you were saying, that's
Oh,
why.
okay. No, well, it's not there. That's the problem.
Right,
You
That is the
got to
problem.
omit it. So we're not,
gonna put it back.
we're saying put it back.
Yeah.
Chair, can you say again the points?
Okay, there's 2 points. One is that the city is to budget a minimum of $100,000 for sidewalks in order to be able to withdraw up to 300,000 from the fund to be spent according to the terms of that section. The second thing is the city is required to create a sidewalk improvement plan by 2029. Okay. Okay, moving on from that section. Is there anything else on page 13?
We decided not to do a special section for sustainability, correct?
Right, we added the sustainability plan
Okay.
with
just
the other
checking.
plans. Right. Okay, page 14. We've already discussed section 14,
Right.
which is the city hospital.
Right, so all references to Advent Health North Pinellas.
Are deleted.
So we don't need to talk about that again because we already covered it?
I'm
Yeah,
We
sorry?
don't need to talk about that again because we already covered it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we've already discussed that. The question is anything else on this page? Needing discussion.
Another page? Yeah.
Okay, let's take just a minute and talk about next steps. We have two sections that should probably be reviewed. One is the rewrite for the section 26 on sidewalks, since we have not seen it. And the second is the review update to section 33. And the whereas is in charter language, which is the hospital we want. If we want to make sure we're all happy with that
I'd like to see the lease,
and see the lease.
if we could get a copy of
Oh,
the lease.
that's fine.
Michelle, do you have access to the lease?
Can you email that out to all of us? Okay.
No way you
Um,
could pull it up and project it, is there?
I mean, I want to be able
No,
to print
okay,
one and read
thanks,
it.
sorry.
Now, as far as our schedule, this needs to be briefed on Tuesday to the Board of Commissioners. That means on Thursday, the packages have to be ready to go to the commissioners. That means the last time we can see this is on Wednesday sometime. And I know that Joan and I have a board meeting that starts over at Leaper Ratner at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it
So-
doesn't take long, right, to just,
If it's, yeah, well, sometimes I think this will be a 15-minute meeting too, and it goes 3 hours. So
about 1 to 2:30?
what's that?
1 to 2:30 on Wednesday.
I know that we can do it 9 to 12. I don't know about Wednesday if we can start early. Michelle, do you have that information? I just don't remember what Irene, because I asked Irene to tell us what times are available. And then when is Mr. Salzman available? That's the other big question. It's this room, it's when Michelle's available and when Mr. Salzman's available. And then it's when,
So the availability of this room and for it to be recorded is Wednesday, the 28th, or Thursday, between either 9 a.m. and 12 p.m.
Looks like it's
I'm
Wednesday.
open Wednesday between 9 and 12.
Wednesday morning. Can we make it? Is everybody available?
I have a meeting probably from 8:30 to 10. I could see about maybe starting, if we could start earlier or something.
I have a doctor's appointment at 10:30, but it's just to check.
Thursday. We can't do Thursday.
No, I'd rather not be up against when this
Oh,
has got to
the-
go to the
the-
board. I'd like to
right,
give Mr.
right.
Salzman a little breathing room to to have the package ready. Really like to get this done on Wednesday. I mean,
It has to be Wednesday.
yeah, it has to be Wednesday. Michelle, how early can we get in here? I should say Wednesday afternoon.
Afternoon?
Yeah, could we start at like 12 or 12:30 or something like
Said you had a
that?
meeting, I thought.
Be
Or
here. Has to be
Wednesday morning?
You can do Wednesday morning. All right, so
I'm in
we're
another
Wednesday
meeting.
morning. You know, this can be quick or not. I mean, if we get 8 people in for public comments, there's no control over
How
it.
about 10 to 12?
10 to 12.
You
I
got
can
a
change my
doctor.
doctor's appointment.
10 to 12? 10 to 12? Okay, that, we'll do that. And Michelle, can you put comments after our review? So if we do have people coming in wanting to talk, we can get our business done first. Okay. All right, I'm going to just, that concludes our draft charter ordinance section. Board and staff comments, I will start with Mr. Salzman.
I'm gonna try to get it to you tomorrow morning.
That would be awesome. So if everybody reviews it and there's all happy faces, we'll be here for 5 minutes, right? Oh, wishful thinking. Michelle? No comments. Mr. Terrapini?
Nothing.
Mr. Seaman?
All good.
Mr. Kalianis?
I'm good.
I have to change the doctor's appointment, but that will be easy.
Dr. Bukavalis?
No comment.
Ms. Jennings?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, well, I'm going to be a little longer, but I'll speak really fast. First off, y'all have been outstanding to work with. I really appreciate your insights, your experience. I think we're giving the Board of Commissioners a very good package to review. That's been very, very well considered. So I want to thank you all. I also thank you for all the prep work y'all have done to make sure that these meetings move smoothly. The second thing I wanted to bring up, there was, I heard through the grapevine some criticism that we had not considered the emails that had come through to this board. So I wanted to summarize those that I have seen, that we all have seen, and that we have considered as a part of this work, just so it's on record. We have an email on 5/10 from Commissioner Kulias that was a summary of the topics that he was going to discuss. We had an email on 5/26 from former Mayor Viceland on the terms for elected officials. We got an email on 6/23 from Denise Menino, who is the Sustainability Advisory Committee Chair on Sustainability Background and their MOU. We had an email on 7/5 for Sharon Landrum on building height restrictions. We had an email on 7/9 from Liz Lindsay, Citizen Bill of Rights, with a response from Mr. Kiger via Ms. Jacobs. We had an email on 7/12 from Thomas Kiger, Public Services Director, on the sustainability plan. We had an email on 7/17 from Jack Spurk and others who represent the Preserve Tarpon Group on building height restrictions. We had an email on 7/18 from Denise Menino, who's the Sustainability Advisory Committee Chair, on whether or not to put the sustainability into the charter. And we had an email from Mr. Terrapini, was that yesterday, today? I don't know what the date was. I didn't write it down. Okay, yesterday, regarding swapping of public land. So we saw these, we considered them, we read them, they went to all of us, and that is the set we considered. Thank you very much. I'm going to adjourn this meeting.
Oh, look at that.
4 o'clock. There we go.